Hi, all. It's me. I am in New York right now at a principal training program, the one I normally go to. And sadly, it falls on our day to day. So, in lieu of being able to be there in person, I'm going to do the video stay at the school today, which will look a little different because I don't have my PowerPoint or my cool graphics. But I do have a chance to. Kind of share with you, if you will. And this hopefully won't be too lecturous or long. But the thinking and kind of the direction in which we need to start thinking about our work going into the very last leg of this school year, which is crazy to think about that we're like truly in the last leg of this year. And this day to day, I think, is a big one. And I'm sure you guys feel that without me needing to say that. But there is a lot resting on the analyses that we do, the planning that we do today, to make sure that we end this leg of our year in an incredibly strong place in June. And I say that more than I feel this more than I even felt this time last year. Because after looking at the data, so, rewinding to where we were at this point last year, we were already on track to exceed our goals. And what was interesting is I think we outpaced our goals pretty early on in the year because all you guys were just working incredibly hard and doing incredible things just as you are this year, and our kids came in with so much gaps to be filled, and we knew how to do that and we were doing it, and we, like I mentioned many times this year, we set ourselves up for an even greater challenge this year, given that our kids had outpaced these really ambitious goals. And so this year was about continuing that pace, but even at a higher bar. And that is what we have done. Except because we've raised the bar on what we and where our kids need to be, that means that our goals are even more ambitious and hard to meet than they were this time last year. And as a result, this point in the school year means more to us in some ways than it did last year. Because if we're going to meet our goals, I'm going to read through them, are in terms of absolutes, then we need to make this next 4 months matter like it's never mattered before. And it needs to matter in two senses, and I'll explain them in a second. But I say all that to say, like, we do not have any wiggle room for our kid and any time to waste. If our kids in our school are going to reach the goals that we know that they need to reach at the end of this year, for them to truly, and for our school to truly be on a trajectory that is different than many of our other schools, and often ones that are the make or break point for so many students in so many schools. And that make or break point is whether our kids leave each grade and each subject on grade level. And that's not an easy task because oftentimes it is very comforting to think about growth, but the absolute is what we have been and what we are driving towards. And the absolute is the thing that is the hardest to reach. And so as a result, these next few months are absolutely kind of the teetering, if you will, like the point in which we make it or will our kids fall short on it. And I have absolute confidence in where we're going and you all that is going to happen without a doubt. However, it's not just going to happen. It's going to have to be the same level of intentionality, the same level of commitment to planning, the same level of just like sheer will that you guys have shown last year and up to this point. But I just think it's worth saying, and mentally for me is on the front of my mind. It is very much the same rate of pace and the same rate of growth our kids need to show in order to meet the absolute bar. So when I think about where what we should feel good about right now, there's so much. And so when you look at where our kids are compared to their peers across the network, we see them outpacing, especially towards absolute. In growth, we've seen some. We don't see it as consistent. We see some schools definitely pushing forth the growth. And I think that does come from, when kids start at a lower point, the amount of growth that they need to make and are making, it does outpace when kids start in a higher starting point, which ours are. However, with that being said, with the need to get our kids in K1 90% on grade level according to STEP, 85 in second and third, and fourth and fifth, 70% on grade level. For that to be true, we must increase the rate of growth that our kids are experiencing in order to ensure that when we look at our school, both this time next year and in September, we're able to say, yes, at Rocket Ship Spark, 75% of our kids in fourth grade read on grade level. 80% of our second graders read on grade level. 90% of our first graders read on grade level. That means our growth must see a really big uptick in the next 4 months, because they're so close, but there is still a steep hill to climb. And so when thinking about what it's going to take for us to get there, I've said this messaging before, and I believe it because I think it's what's gotten us so far. And I say this again, going back to the idea that, like, it's not revolutionary things. It's not these big changes. It's not. It's really strategic, small things that make a big difference. The same way we think about classroom management, and that it's the details that ensure excellence for our kids. Like, if we sweat those small things, then our kids are going to internalize much larger messages. And when I think about us, it's our smallest actions over the next between March and June that's going to determine whether our kids make it to these end of the year absolute benchmarks, like they're on grade level readers, they are competing with their peers, or they're not. And it is about reflecting on the smallest things. And so, to be really clear, those things are the things that you're doing, right? So often in March, and I say this for myself, going through this kind of phase, you feel a sense of comfort in March, in the sense that you have your systems and routines down, you have things in flow. And it's really easy to kind of feel good, and we all should. And it's also easy when you're in that point to let small things go, because everything else feels like it's in place. And so if we're going to make it, and I know we will, it will, though, absolutely take us not falling into that trap that can happen, especially as you round towards spring break, or coming back from spring break and there's testing and things are a little bit different. Having an absolute mindset towards my littlest actions as a teacher make the biggest difference. And by I say littlest actions, I mean preparedness and plans, and then an execution to get there. And all of you in every classroom on our campus have those things in place. It's now staying committed to them with the utmost fortitude, just desire to not let them drop. And that's hard. And I say that saying that I struggle with it as well. But referring back to Sarah's wonderful email, I think it's thinking about that way of approaching it. How do we hold each other accountable for that way of operating? How do we help one another so we see each other drop small things or need that pick me up? We give it to each other. And the spirit that this month, the month of March, April, May, and June are they bring out the absolute best in us. And I think that's a really powerful thing about how do you make the months of March, April, May, and June bring out the absolute best in you as a teacher and as a person. And to do that, I think it takes a team. It takes everybody around you helping you get there, and then it takes a commitment in your mind to let that happen. And I think about today, and I think about day to day, and I think that there's a lot of sessions that you'll be in to push you, and I think it's really also easy in these sessions, and as somebody who's in them myself today, tomorrow, and Sunday, to think I do this, I know this, and slightly be, a little, not necessarily resistant, but hard to take it all in. And my ask of you, and the ask of all of us over these next 4 months, is that we become the sponges like our kids are, and that we, really operate with the utmost humility, in the sense of what can I take? How am I pushing my practice? How am I pushing those around me to be better, in the spirit of being the best that we can be, and the attitudes that we show around it, because it's in the littlest things. It's in the ways that we engage in sessions. It's in the way that we try new things inside our spaces, inside the learning lab, inside of tutoring, inside of chess, inside of reading, instead of writing, and math and science. Any block of our day, any section of our school, if we ourselves are modeling this way of being, those around us will too, and so will our kids.